The phone rang at exactly 3:07 a.m. I shot up in bed, heart hammering against my ribs. Nobody calls at that hour unless something terrible has happened. My first thought was accident. My second was hospital. I grabbed the phone with shaking hands, Vanessa's name glowing on the screen. Baby? What's wrong? Are you hurt? There was laughter on the other end. Not the kind that warms you, the kind that cuts. Oh my God, she actually answered. That was Vanessa's voice, but slurred, distant. Then closer, sharper.
Mom.
Mom, listen. Brittany says you're pathetic. And you know what? She's right. You're old and pathetic, and I'm so tired of pretending you're not. The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, phone still pressed to my ear, waiting for the punchline that never came. The red numbers on my alarm clock blinked. 3:09 a.m. 3:10 a.m. My hand wouldn't stop shaking. Old and pathetic. The words kept playing in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. I raised that girl alone. Her father walked out when she was 2, left us with nothing but a stack of unpaid bills and a broken promise. I worked doubles at the diner, then nights at the hospital cleaning floors so she could have dance lessons, so she could go to college, so she wouldn't have to struggle the way I did. I gave her everything. And at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, my only child called me to tell me I was nothing. Have you ever loved someone so much you forgot to love yourself? Tell me in the comments what you'd do if your own child said those words to you. I didn't cry. That's the strange part. I just sat there in the silence, listening to the house settle around me, feeling something inside my chest go cold and still, like a switch had flipped, like a door had closed so quietly I almost didn't notice it happening. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. I didn't call her back. Didn't text. Didn't reach out to ask if she was okay or if she remembered what she'd said. Because somewhere between the dial tone and the sunrise creeping through my window, I made a decision. Silence would be my answer. Not yelling. Not begging. Not explaining for the 100th time how much I'd sacrificed or how deeply she'd hurt me. Just silence. Pure, unbroken, deafening silence. I'd spent 28 years speaking. Maybe it was time she learned to listen. The next morning, I made coffee like always. Went to work like always. Smiled at customers and restocked shelves and counted register money like my world hadn't shifted on its axis in the middle of the night.
But something had changed.
Something fundamental. My phone buzzed twice that afternoon. Both times, Vanessa's name. Both times I let it ring. On the third day, she sent a text. Mom, stop being dramatic. It was a joke. I read it.
Didn't respond.
Deleted it. She had no idea what she'd started. No idea that the mother she'd taken for granted for nearly 3 decades had finally, quietly, lethally, decided enough was enough. That night, something inside me died. And something else was born. Something she would never see coming. Something that would teach her exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Because I wasn't just her mother anymore. I was a woman who'd finally learned to say no. She wasn't always like this. There was a time when Vanessa would climb into my lap with scraped knees and tell me I was the best mama in the whole world. When she'd draw me pictures of stick-figure families and tape them to the fridge with pride. When I love you meant something real. But somewhere between childhood and 28, my daughter learned that tears could buy her anything. It started small.
A toy she just had to have.
Then concert tickets. Then rent money when she quit another job because her boss didn't respect her vision. Each time, I'd tell myself it was the last time. Each time, I'd break. Just this once, Mom. I promise I'll pay you back. She never did. I worked overtime at the antique shop I managed downtown, cataloging estate sales and refinishing furniture until my hands ached. Meanwhile, Vanessa posted photos from restaurants I couldn't afford, wearing clothes I'd helped pay for, with friends who didn't know my name. The calls only came when she needed something. Money for her car. Money for her credit cards. Money because life was hard and wasn't I her mother? Didn't I want her to be happy? And like a fool, I always said yes. Have you ever loved someone so much you forgot to love yourself? Drop a comment if you've been there. I remember the day she graduated college. I'd saved for 2 years to help with tuition, ate nothing but rice and beans for months, wore the same 3 outfits to work on rotation. At the ceremony, she thanked her professors, her friends, her boyfriend who'd only been around for 6 months. She didn't mention me once. When I brought it up later, gently, she rolled her eyes. God, Mom, not everything is about you. Stop being so needy. Needy. That's what she called the woman who'd given up everything so she could walk across that stage. I swallowed it down, pushed it deep, told myself she was young, still finding herself, still learning how to be grateful. Love made excuses. Love made me blind. But blindness only lasts until someone turns on the lights. The pattern was always the same. She'd disappear for weeks, sometimes months. No calls.
No visits.
Then suddenly, she'd show up with tears and stories about how hard her life was, how nobody understood her, how she just needed a little help getting back on her feet. And I'd open my wallet, open my door, open my arms. Every single time. My friends tried to warn me. Sandra from the shop would shake her head when I'd mention sending Vanessa money again. Margaret, baby, you're not helping her. You're just teaching her that you'll always be there to catch her. I'd smile and change the subject because what do they know? They weren't mothers. They didn't understand that primal need to protect your child, even when that child was an adult who should have known better. But deep down, in that place we don't like to visit, I knew Sandra was right. I knew I was raising an adult who'd never learned to stand on her own because I kept holding her up. Who'd never learned the value of $1 because mine came so easily. Who'd never learned respect because I'd never demanded it. Maybe love did make me blind. But one day, I'd finally teach her what no really meant. And when that day came, she wouldn't see it coming until it was far too late. My birthday fell on a Thursday that year. I woke up hoping maybe this time would be different. Maybe she'd remember. Maybe she'd call just to say she loved me. No strings attached, no favors needed. By noon, my phone sat silent on the counter, mocking me. Sandra brought cupcakes to the shop, the kind with too much frosting that sticks to your teeth. The mailman sang off-key when he dropped off packages. Even Mrs. Chun from the dry cleaners next door stopped by with a card. But from Vanessa? Nothing. I told myself it was fine. She was busy. She had her own life. 28-year-olds don't always remember their parents' birthdays. I made every excuse in the book, because that's what mothers do. Then I made the mistake of checking Instagram. There she was, posted 4 hours ago. Vanessa at some rooftop bar in the city, champagne glass raised, surrounded by people I'd never met. Her smile was wide and careless. The caption read, "Out with the old, in with the gold. New year, new energy, cutting dead weight." Dead weight. I read it 3 times, each word landing like a fist. The comments rolled in underneath. Heart emojis. Yes, queen. Living your best life. Not one person asking who the dead weight was. Not one person knowing it was me. Would you answer the door or teach the lesson?
Tell me what you do.
I set my phone down carefully, like it might explode. My hands weren't shaking this time. They were steady.
Clear.
Cold. Sandra found me in the back room, sitting among the antique furniture I'd spent years collecting and restoring. "Margaret, you okay?" "I'm done," I said.
Simple as that.
Done with what? Being old. Being dead weight. Being pathetic. I looked up at her. I'm done being her mother. Sandra's eyes went soft with understanding. She didn't argue. Didn't tell me I was overreacting or that Vanessa didn't mean it. She just pulled up a chair and sat with me in the silence. That night, I did something I'd never done before. When Vanessa's rent was due, I didn't send money. When she texted asking about her car insurance, I didn't respond. When she called, I let it go to voicemail. Days turned into weeks. The calls became more frequent. The texts more desperate. "Mom, what's going on? Why aren't you answering? I really need to talk to you." I watched each message appear and disappear, my silence growing stronger with every ignored notification. 2 months later, she showed up at my house. I saw her through the window before she knocked. She looked thin, tired. Her expensive coat was wrinkled, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. The confidence from that rooftop photo was gone. She knocked. Once.
Twice.
Then pounded.
Mom.
I know you're in there. I waited 10 seconds.
20.
Then I opened the door. The woman who stood there wasn't the daughter who'd called me pathetic. She was smaller somehow, desperate, but still, underneath it all, expecting me to fold. Thank God, she breathed. I've been trying to reach you for. I know. She blinked. Then why didn't you answer? I've been busy. Busy. Her voice climbed. Mom, I've been calling for weeks. My landlord is threatening to evict me. My car got repossessed. I lost my job. I need help. I leaned against the doorframe, studying her like she was a stranger. That sounds hard. Hard? It's a nightmare. I don't know what to do. That's why I need you to. To what, Vanessa?
She faltered.
To help me. Like you always do. Like I always do. I repeated slowly. Because that's what mothers are for, right? To fix everything. To catch you every time you fall. To be your safety net while you jump without looking. That's not fair. Isn't it? I felt something shift in my chest. Power I'd never tasted before. Tell me, how many times have you called me this year just to say hello? How many times have you asked how I was doing? How many times have you remembered my birthday? Her face went pale. I've been dealing with a lot. You always say just this once. But how many times is that, Vanessa? How many, just this once, have there been? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This wasn't the mother she knew. This wasn't the woman who broke every time she cried. I can't believe you're being like this. After everything. After everything I'd done for you? I finished.
Yes.
After everything. And what did you do? You called me old and pathetic. You posted that I was dead weight. You forgot I existed until you needed something. Tears started down her cheeks. The old me would have crumbled. The old me would have pulled her inside and fixed everything. The new me closed the door. When she finally knocked on my door that night, she didn't expect the woman who opened it. And that night, I opened a drawer that would change everything. Vanessa stood on my porch for another 20 minutes, crying and knocking. I sat inside, drinking tea, listening to her fall apart on the other side of the door. Eventually, she left. My phone exploded with texts. Angry ones. Desperate ones. Manipulative ones that tried every angle she'd used successfully before. I'm your daughter. How can you be so cruel?
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. Just please help me. I read every one. Responded to none. 3 days later, she came back. This time calmer. More calculated. She'd changed tactics. Mom. Her voice was soft through the door. Can we please just talk? I brought your favorite pastries from that bakery on 5th Street. Bribes now. Interesting. I opened the door. Her eyes were red-rimmed but hopeful. She held up the bag like a peace offering. Come in, I said. Relief flooded her face. She thought she'd won. Thought the old playbook still worked. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd had countless dinners, where I'd signed loan papers to help her through another crisis. I know I messed up, she started. The apology she'd rehearsed. That night I called you. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. You know how I get when drunk words are sober thoughts. She stopped. What? That's what my mother used to say. When people drink, they don't become different people. They just stop filtering who they really are. That's not fair. I was. You were honest. I took a sip of tea. Maybe for the first time in years, you were actually honest with me. Vanessa's jaw tightened. I could see her trying to figure out which version of herself would work. The victim? The apologetic daughter? The angry child? I need money, Mom. I need a place to stay. Just until I get back on my feet.
No.
The word hung in the air like a gunshot.
No.
She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. But I'm your daughter. And I'm your mother. Not your ATM. Not your safety net. Not your backup plan for when life gets hard. Her face twisted. There it was. The real Vanessa, the one who only came out when she didn't get her way. You're being selfish. After everything you've done, now you decide to have boundaries? Now you decide to grow a spine. Better late than never. She stood up so fast her chair scraped. You know what? Brittany was right about you. You are pathetic. A pathetic old woman who's going to die alone because you pushed away the only person who ever cared about you. Have you ever realized you gave too much to someone who never gave back? Comment below if you understand this pain. I stayed seated.
Calm.
Unmoved. If you ever figure out why I'm doing this, come back. Until then, the answer is no. It will always be no. This is insane. She grabbed her purse. When you regret this, don't come crying to me. Don't call me. Don't try to fix this. You're burning the only bridge you have. Maybe, but at least I'm burning it on my terms. She slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. I sat in the silence afterward, my tea getting cold, my heart beating steady and strong. She thought this was about punishment, about revenge, about teaching her a lesson the hard way. She had no idea. That night, after she left, I walked to my bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Underneath old sweaters and photo albums, I found the envelope. Inside was my will, the one I'd written 5 years ago, leaving everything to Vanessa. My house, my savings, my life insurance, the antique shop I'd poured my soul into building. I held it up to the light, reading my own handwriting from back when I still believed she'd grow up, when I still believed she'd change. Then I tore it in half. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer. Tomorrow, I'd rewrite everything. Tomorrow, I'd make sure that when I was gone, Vanessa would finally understand what she'd thrown away. But tonight, I just sat with that torn paper in my hands, feeling something I hadn't felt in 28 years.
Free.
And that night, I opened a drawer that would change everything. The Halden Antique Gallery sat on the corner of Maple and 3rd, its windows full of treasures people had forgotten they owned. I'd managed it for 15 years before old Mr. Halden died and left it to me in his will. Everyone was shocked. His own kids contested it, said I'd manipulated him somehow. The courts disagreed. Truth was, Mr. Halden saw in me what I'd failed to see in myself. Someone who understood the value of things. Someone who could spot worth when others saw junk. You've got an eye, Margaret, he'd said a week before he passed. You know what's precious and what's pretend. I wished he'd taught me how to tell the difference in people, too. The shop was worth more than anyone knew. Over the years, I'd acquired pieces that collectors would kill for. A Chippendale desk, Tiffany lamps, first edition books, art from estates that hadn't known what they were selling. I'd lived small, saved big, and built something real. Vanessa knew I managed the shop. She didn't know I owned it. Didn't know that when she asked for rent money, I was pulling from an account that had 6 figures. Didn't know that her pathetic old mother was worth more than she'd ever imagine. I kept it quiet, lived in my small house, drove my old car, wore clothes from discount stores. Not because I had to, because I'd grown up with nothing and never forgot what it felt like. My lawyer's office smelled like leather and old paper. Margaret. James stood when I entered, concern creasing his face. Your assistant said this was urgent. I need to change my will. He pulled out a file. The current one leaves everything to Vanessa, your daughter. Not anymore. James set down his pen. You understand this is a big decision. Maybe you should take some time. I've had 28 years. That's enough time. What would you have done with the will? Given it to family or to those who truly need it? Let me know below. We spent 3 hours going through details. Every asset, every account, every piece of the life I'd built while Vanessa was busy calling me dead weight. So, where does it go? James asked. Charity? A friend. I want to start a foundation. The Halden Foundation for Abandoned Mothers. His eyebrows rose. For women who gave everything to their children and got nothing back. For mothers who worked themselves to the bone and got called pathetic for it. For the ones who loved too much and lost themselves in the process. My voice stayed steady, but my hands shook as I signed the papers. Every dollar I have goes into that foundation. Every single penny. The shop, the house, the savings, the investments, all of it. To help women like me start over. To help them remember they're worth more than what their children made them believe. And Vanessa? Gets nothing. James studied me for a long moment. You're sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. He nodded slowly. Then it's done. As of today, Vanessa is no longer your beneficiary. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in years. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in the city, Vanessa was probably drowning in problems she'd created, still expecting me to throw her a life raft. She had no idea the raft was already gone, burned, sunk to the bottom of an ocean she'd made herself. That night, I made dinner for one. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, my phone silent on the counter. No calls.
No texts. No demands.
Just peace. In 3 weeks, Vanessa would show up at my door again. She'd have new tears, new stories, new manipulations. She'd play every card she had left. And I'd sit her down at my kitchen table, pour her tea, and hand her an envelope that would destroy her world. But she'd deserve every second of it. Because sometimes love means letting people fall. Sometimes love means stepping back and letting them learn what it feels like to hit the ground without a cushion. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the truth they don't want to hear. And soon, she would sit across from me, unaware that her fate was already sealed. She showed up exactly 3 weeks later, just like I knew she would. This time she looked worse. Hair unwashed. Makeup smeared under her eyes, like she'd been crying for days. The designer purse was gone, replaced with something cheap and fraying at the edges. Mom. Her voice cracked.
Please.
I have nowhere else to go. I opened the door wider.
Come in.
Hope flickered across her face. She thought she'd won again. Thought I'd cracked. I made tea. Chamomile, her favorite when she was little. She sat at the table, hands wrapped around the cup like it could save her. I was wrong, she started. About everything. I've been thinking a lot these past few months, and I realize now how much you've done for me. How ungrateful I've been. How selfish. The words were right, but her eyes kept darting to my purse on the counter. Calculating. Planning. I'm really trying to change, Mom. I got a job interview next week. I just need a little help with rent until my first paycheck comes in. Maybe 2,000? 3 at most. There it was. The real reason for the tears.
No.
Her face fell. But I just explained. You explained that you need money. Not that you're sorry. Not that you understand what you did. Just that you need something from me. Again. That's not fair. I said I was sorry. You said the words. But do you know what you're apologizing for? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I'm apologizing for hurting you. For saying those things. Which things, Vanessa? Say them. Her jaw tightened. I don't remember exactly. You called me old and pathetic. You said I was dead weight. You forgot my birthday and posted about cutting me out of your life while I sat alone eating cupcakes from the office. Silence. You want to know the worst part? I leaned forward. It's not even about the words. It's that you meant them. You've thought I was pathetic for years. I was just too blind to see it. Mom, I was drunk. Drunk words are sober thoughts. We've been over this. Do you believe silence can be more powerful than shouting? Drop a yes in the comments if you do. Vanessa's face twisted into something ugly. The mask was slipping. You know what? I came here to apologize. To make things right. But you're too stuck in your feelings to accept it. You'd rather play the victim than actually help your daughter when she needs you. I've helped you for 28 years. Maybe it's time you helped yourself. She stood up, trembling with rage.
Fine.
When you're old and dying alone, don't call me. Don't expect me to visit. Don't expect me to care. I won't. I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out the envelope.
White. Clean.
Heavy with the weight of truth. What's that? Your inheritance. Or what's left of it. I slid it across the table. She grabbed it like a lifeline, fingers shaking as she tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, an official document from James's office, stamped and signed. Her eyes scanned the words.
Once. Twice.
Then her face went white. This says I'm removed from your will. That's correct. You can't do this to me. I already have. She crushed the paper in her fist. You're insane. You're a bitter old woman who'd rather give everything to strangers than to her own daughter. Not strangers. Women who need it. Women who were told they were worthless by the people they loved most. Women like me. I'm your daughter. And I'm your mother. But that doesn't mean I owe you my entire life. My peace. My dignity. My future. Vanessa's face contorted with fury and disbelief. She threw the crumpled paper at me. It bounced off my chest and fell to the floor. You'll regret this, she hissed. When you're dying and alone, you'll wish you'd chosen differently. Maybe. But at least I'll die knowing I finally chose myself. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I picked up the crumpled paper, smoothed it out, and put it back in the drawer. My tea had gone cold. I poured it out and made fresh. The house settled into silence again. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. But I already had. And soon, she'd understand exactly what that meant. 6 months passed like water through fingers. I heard about Vanessa through Sandra, who heard it from her niece, who apparently knew someone who knew Vanessa's roommate. Small town connections. You can't escape them. She'd lost her apartment. Moved in with 3 other people in a basement studio across town. Her car was gone. Her fancy clothes were gone. The Instagram posts stopped coming. Sandra would tell me these things carefully, watching my face for cracks. You okay hearing this?
Ivy Fine.
And I was. My heart was heavy, but it wasn't broken anymore. There's a difference. I threw myself into the foundation. Found a lawyer who specialized in nonprofit work. Started reaching out to women's shelters, community centers, churches. The Halden Foundation for Abandoned Mothers would help women start businesses, go back to school, leave toxic relationships. It would be my legacy. Better than any daughter could have been. One Tuesday morning, Mrs. Chen came running into the shop, breathless. Margaret. I saw her. Vanessa. She's working at the supermarket on 4th Street. Bagging groceries. My hand stilled on the Victorian lamp I was polishing. She looked so thin, Mrs. Chen continued. So tired. Are you sure you don't want to? I'm sure. But that night, I drove past the supermarket. Parked across the street where she wouldn't see me. There she was, in a green vest, hair pulled back, no makeup, scanning items and bagging them with mechanical efficiency. An older woman was yelling at her about something. Coupons, maybe. Vanessa just stood there and took it, apologizing repeatedly. Would you forgive someone after years of hurt? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I watched for 20 minutes. Watched her struggle with heavy bags. Watched her force smiles at customers who barely acknowledged her. Watched her check her phone on her break, scrolling through what was probably an empty bank account. Something in my chest squeezed. Not regret. Not guilt. Just the ghost of who we used to be. I drove home and didn't look back. 3 months later, on a Sunday afternoon, my mailbox held more than bills. There was a letter. No return address. Handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. I stood on my porch, envelope in hand, heart suddenly racing. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Burn it. Pretend it never came. But I opened it. The paper was cheap, probably from a dollar store. The ink was smudged in places, like tears had fallen while she wrote.
Mom.
I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve either of those things. But I need to say this anyway. You were right about everything. I was entitled. I was selfish. I did take you for granted every single day of my life. I thought you'd always be there, always say yes, always catch me when I fell. I thought that's just what mothers did. I didn't know it would break you. These past 9 months have been the hardest of my life. I've lost everything. My apartment, my car, my friends who only stuck around when I had money to spend, my pride. But I've gained something too. Perspective. When you're scrubbing floors at 11 p.m. because someone spilled an entire bottle of wine in aisle 6, you think about things. When you're counting pennies to buy ramen, you remember all the times you threw money away on stupid things. When you're alone in a basement room listening to rats in the walls, you realize who you really are without all the noise. I'm not that person anymore. Or maybe I'm just finally becoming who I should have been all along.
I work 2 jobs now.
The supermarket during the day, cleaning office buildings at night. I'm paying off my debts. Every single one. It'll take years, but I'm doing it. I don't need anything from you, Mom. I'm not asking for money or forgiveness or a second chance. I just needed you to know that I finally understand. You didn't abandon me. You saved me. I love you. I'm sorry I forgot how to show it. Your daughter, Vanessa. The letter fell from my hands. I sat down on my porch steps and cried for the first time in months. Big, ugly, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded. Not because I was sad. Because I was free. She finally understood. When I opened it, my hands trembled. Because what I read there would change everything one final time. I must have read that letter 20 times that first night. Each time, I looked for the catch. The manipulation. The hidden request for help buried between apologies. But it wasn't there. The words were raw.
Real.
The kind of honest that only comes when you've hit bottom so hard you can't pretend anymore. I folded it carefully and put it in the drawer with a torn will. Evidence of who we'd been and who we were becoming. Sleep didn't come easy. I kept thinking about her scrubbing floors, counting pennies, living in a basement with rats. The girl who used to complain if her coffee wasn't exactly right was now grateful just to afford coffee at all. Part of me wanted to drive to that basement, throw money at her, fix everything like I always had. But the wiser part knew that would destroy everything she'd learned. 2 weeks later, I wrote back. Not a long letter. Just a few lines on my good stationery. Vanessa, I read your letter. Thank you for your honesty. I'm proud of you. Love, Mom. I mailed it before I could second-guess myself. A month passed. Then another. Life continued in its quiet way. The foundation was coming together beautifully. We'd helped 4 women so far. Small starts, but meaningful ones. Sandra caught me, smiling one afternoon. What's got you so happy? I think I'm finally learning what peace feels like. Would you forgive or forget? Let's talk about it in the comments. Then, on a Thursday in March, something happened that I didn't see coming. I was closing up the shop when the chest pain started. Sharp, sudden, like someone had reached inside my ribcage and squeezed. I made it to my car before I collapsed. The hospital said it was a massive heart attack. Said I was lucky the ambulance got there when it did. Said another 5 minutes and I wouldn't have made it. They kept me for 3 days running tests, hooking me up to machines that beeped and hummed. I gave them Sandra's number as my emergency contact. She came immediately, holding my hand while doctors explained things in words that sounded far away. Do you want us to call your daughter? A nurse asked.
No.
Sandra squeezed my hand, but didn't argue. On the 4th day, I went home with a bag full of pills and instructions to take it easy. My heart was damaged, they said. Weakened.
Could go anytime.
I sat in my house, surrounded by the life I'd built, and realized something profound. I was ready. Not dying. Not giving up. Just ready for whatever came next. That night, I called James. I need to add something to the foundation documents. What kind of something? A letter. To be delivered to Vanessa after I'm gone. And one more thing. We spent an hour on the phone, finalizing details. When we hung up, I felt a strange sense of completion. Like a story finding its ending. 3 weeks later, I went to sleep in my own bed, surrounded by antiques and memories and the quiet satisfaction of a life lived on my terms. I didn't wake up. The heart attack came quick. Painless, the coroner would later say. Just a gentle slipping away. Sandra found me the next morning when I didn't show up to open the shop. My funeral was small. Customers from the shop. Women from the foundation. Mrs. Chun and her family. People whose lives I'd touched in small, quiet ways. Vanessa stood in the back, tears streaming down her face, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. She didn't try to sit in the front row. Didn't make a scene. Just stood there crying, watching them lower her mother into the ground. After everyone left, she stayed. Sat by the grave in the fading light. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." 2 days later, she received a call from James's office. There was a will reading scheduled. She needed to attend. She almost didn't go. What was the point? She knew she'd been removed. Knew everything was going to the foundation. But something made her show up anyway. Maybe closure. Maybe curiosity. Maybe just the need to sit in a room where her mother's name would be spoken one last time. James greeted her with a sympathy that seemed genuine. Led her to a small conference room where she sat alone, hands folded in her lap. "Before we begin," James said, "your mother left something for you." He slid an envelope across the table. Her name on the front in handwriting she'd know anywhere. But fate wasn't done writing our story. Because soon after, I went to sleep one night and never woke up. Vanessa's hands shook so badly she almost couldn't open the envelope. James sat quietly, giving her space. Patient. Understanding. Inside was a single page. Her mother's handwriting, neat and careful. "My dearest Vanessa, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope my funeral was small and didn't cause you too much trouble. I need you to know something before this will is read. I need you to understand why I did what I did. I didn't change my will to punish you. I did it to save you. You were drowning, baby. Drowning in entitlement and comfort, and the belief that the world owed you something. And I was the one holding you underwater by always pulling you back up before you learned to swim. The greatest gift I could give you was the truth. The hardest kind of love is the kind that steps back and lets you fall. I hope you've learned what I tried to teach you. I hope you've discovered that you're stronger than you thought, braver than you believed, more capable than you ever gave yourself credit for. If you've truly changed, if you've truly learned what gratitude means, then there's something waiting for you. Do you remember the oak tree in the back garden? The one where we used to have picnics when you were small? The one where I buried your time capsule when you were 10? Dig there. 3 feet down. You'll find a metal box. Inside that box is a choice. What you do with it will show me, even in death, who you've become. I love you, Vanessa. I always have. Even when I had to love you from a distance. Your mother, Margaret. Vanessa's tears fell on the paper, smudging the ink. She read it 3 more times, each word carving deeper into her heart. James cleared his throat gently. The will itself leaves everything to the Halden Foundation for abandoned mothers. The shop, the house, all assets and accounts. You are not named as a beneficiary. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know. I understand. However, James continued, there is one exception. The house is to remain untouched for 90 days after your mother's death. After that period, it will be sold and proceeds will go to the foundation. You have access to the property during those 90 days. Why? I believe your mother just told you why. Would you open the letter or walk away? What would you expect to find? Comment below. Vanessa drove to her mother's house in a daze. Used the key she still had, the one she'd never returned. The house smelled like her mother. Lavender and old books and furniture polish. Everything was exactly as Margaret had left it. She walked through slowly, touching things. The couch where they used to watch movies. The kitchen table where they'd had their last conversation. The drawer where her mother had pulled out that devastating document. Then, she went to the back garden. The oak tree stood massive and ancient, its branches reaching toward the sky like prayers. She remembered picnics here. Remembered being 10 and burying that time capsule full of drawings and diary entries and dreams. Her mother had remembered, too. Vanessa found a shovel in the garage. Started digging as the sun set behind the trees, painting everything gold and orange. 3 feet down, her shovel hit metal. She dropped to her knees, pulling dirt away with her hands until she could lift the box free. It was locked. But taped to the top was a small key and another note. Vanessa, if you've learned the meaning of gratitude, this is yours. If you haven't, I trust you'll make the right choice anyway. Love, Mom. Her hands shook as she unlocked the box. Inside was cash. Stacks of $100 bills, neatly bound. And a letter. She counted it with trembling fingers.
52 dollars.
The letter explained everything. This money is for you on one condition. Use it to help someone else the way I always helped you. Find a woman who's struggling, who's lost, who needs a second chance. Give her this gift. Anonymously. Expecting nothing back. Teach her what my silence taught you. That real love sometimes looks like letting go. Vanessa sat in the dirt under that oak tree and sobbed. Not gentle tears. Body shaking, soul-deep sobs that came from years of selfishness finally breaking open into understanding. Her mother hadn't abandoned her. Her mother had rebuilt her. In silence. In love. In the hardest way possible. She rushed to the garden, heart pounding, not knowing what waited beneath the old oak tree. But what she found there would prove whether she'd truly learned her mother's final lesson. The next morning, Vanessa went back to work at the supermarket. She scanned groceries and bagged items and smiled at customers, but her mind was miles away. On that box of cash. On her mother's final lesson. On the choice she had to make. $50,000 could change her life. Get her out of that basement. Buy a car.
Pay off her debts in one swoop.
Start over fresh. But that's not what her mother wanted. During her lunch break, she sat in her car and thought about the kind of person she wanted to be. Not the person she was before. Not the entitled girl who took and never gave back. Someone different. Someone better. Someone her mother would be proud of. That night, she started researching. Women's shelters. Single mothers working 2 jobs. Women escaping bad situations. Women who needed help but were too proud to ask for it. It took her 3 weeks to find the right person. Her name was Teresa, 42 years old, working at a gas station while raising 2 kids alone. Her ex-husband hadn't paid child support in 3 years. She was living in a weekly motel, 1 paycheck away from homelessness. Vanessa watched her for a few days. Not creepy watching, just observing. Seeing how Teresa smiled at her kids even when she looked exhausted. How she split her lunch in half to save money. How she never complained, just kept going. She reminded Vanessa of her mother. On a Tuesday evening, Vanessa followed Teresa home to the motel. Waited until she went inside with her kids. Then walked up and knocked. Teresa opened the door cautiously. Can I help you? I hope so. My name is Vanessa. Can I talk to you for a minute? They sat on the motel steps while the kids did homework inside. Vanessa told her about her mother. About the lessons. About the box of money and the final request. I want to give you something, Vanessa said. No strings attached. No repayment needed. Just a gift from someone who finally learned what giving really means. She handed Teresa an envelope. What is this?
52 dollars.
Teresa's face went white. I can't, you're joking. I'm not.
Take it.
Use it to get an apartment. Get your kids into a better school. Buy yourself something nice for once. Start over. But why me? Vanessa smiled, tears in her eyes. Because someone once gave me everything, and I didn't appreciate it until it was gone. Because my mother taught me that real love means giving without expecting anything back. Because you remind me of her. And because you deserve a second chance. Teresa started crying, pulled Vanessa into a hug, and held on like she was afraid to let go. How do I thank you? You don't. You just pay it forward when you can.
Help someone else someday.
That's all she'd want. Vanessa drove away feeling lighter than she had in years. The money was gone. Her second chance was gone. She'd still be living in that basement, working 2 jobs, struggling to get by. But for the first time in her life, She understood what her mother had been trying to teach her all along. That real wealth isn't what you have. It's what you give. That real strength isn't in taking. It's in letting go. That real love sometimes means silence and hard lessons and tough choices that hurt like hell, but save souls in the end. She drove to the cemetery as the sun set, sat by her mother's grave, and talked to her like she was still there. I did it, Mom. I gave it away. All of it. And you know what? It felt better than any money I ever took from you. It felt like I finally understood what you were trying to teach me. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh-cut grass. I'm sorry it took me so long. I'm sorry I was so blind. I'm sorry I called you pathetic when you were the strongest person I've ever known. She placed flowers on the grave. Cheap ones from the supermarket where she worked. Not fancy. Not expensive. Just real. I'm going to make you proud, Mom. Every single day. I'm going to be the daughter you deserved. Even if you're not here to see it. She stood to leave, but something caught her eye. A small envelope tucked under the edge of the headstone, protected from the weather. Her name on the front. She opened it with shaking hands. Vanessa, if you're reading this, you found the money. And if you found the money, you made a choice. If you kept it, I understand. Survival is hard. Desperation is real. I don't judge you. But if you gave it away, then you've learned what I spent my whole life trying to teach you. That we don't build legacies with money. We build them with love. With sacrifice. With the hard choice to put someone else first. I'm so proud of you, baby. Wherever you are. Whatever you chose. You're still my daughter, and I love you. But if you gave that money to someone who needed it more than you, then you've become more than my daughter. You've become the woman I always knew you could be. I love you forever, Mom. Vanessa collapsed onto the grass, clutching that letter, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Her mother had known, had trusted her, had believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. Years later, Vanessa would become the director of the Halden Foundation for Abandoned Mothers. She'd work tirelessly, helping women find their strength, their voices, their second chances. She'd never remarry, never have kids. She'd pour everything into honoring her mother's legacy. And every year, on the anniversary of Margaret's death, she'd sit by that grave and tell her mother about all the lives they'd changed together. Because Margaret didn't destroy her daughter. She rebuilt her. In silence. In love. In the most powerful way possible. Never mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes, it's the loudest form of strength. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story of quiet justice, second chances, and the power of love that teaches instead of enabling. Drop a comment below telling us what you would have done in Margaret's shoes, or share a story of when someone's tough love changed your life. Your words might inspire someone else who's struggling with the same choice. This is more than just entertainment. This is a community of people who understand that the deepest love sometimes requires the hardest choices. Welcome to the family. We'll see you in the next story.